What a crazy time this is. 2 weeks ago everything was still set for a bear market. And now many are already shouting again, the bull run continues. Or at least there is the justified hope to say, we could now continue the bull run. Maybe you are also among those who say, yes, we will now see sustainably rising prices. But maybe you also have a certain skepticism and say, well, I'm not quite sure yet if this is really sustainable. Today, I want to pick out a course due to the increases that we will discuss together, which is very close to the top 10. That means, so to speak, it's a big player. It concerns the course SUI, of course, which has already increased or more than tenfold since its low point and nearly 80% in the last week. If you follow me and my channel, want to support, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, yeah? Leave me a short comment on whether you are invested in SUI or plan to invest. Whether the FOMO has already tickled you again and you say, yes, we're going further up now. Or maybe you have also skepticism like many on the market who don't quite trust the situation yet. Please write that down in the comments below and of course also subscribe to my channel. Key. My name is Arian from VisionCrypto. I wish you a lot of fun now. And let's go in before we look at the chart. Let's briefly go over a few key figures. SUI currently has a price of $3.65 US and a market capitalization of approximately $12 billion US. You want the daily volume is in 3.6 billion US dollars. And that's really quite significant because you have to consider that the price was less than 50 cents, not even a year ago. And now quite a bit is happening with SUI. What you need to pay a little attention to is that there are a total of 10 billion coins that will eventually come to the market. And currently we have about 3.24 billion coins in circulation. This means that there is still a significant dilution, meaning an increased inflation rate, because 2/3 of all coins are yet to be distributed in the future, unlike Bitcoin, where relatively few coins are added. This means the inflation rate, if you want to call it that, is significantly lower in this case than with SUI. But this is a process that will take several years to complete and is not something that will affect us overnight. But it's something to be aware of, and especially if any of you are considering a long-term investment in SUI, the value development of SUI in recent days is also intriguing. If you look at this, you'll see that 7 days ago, we had a price of just about $2, and now we're at $3.60. The graph speaks for itself, showing that it was an extremely good entry point. And you can also clearly see on the monthly chart that SUI Wave has really picked up speed. For those who don't yet have SUI in their portfolio and would like to buy or are generally looking for an exchange, then take a look at CoinEx. SUI is also listed there. The advantage of CoinEx is, for one, I have known the exchange for several years now. I am very satisfied. It is a very reliable exchange. Additionally, CoinEx has been on the market for 7 years on the market. So and what's crucial with such a thing, if you want to trade in the short term, you only need an email address and a password, and you can start right away, if you want, without having to go through a lengthy identification marathon. And submit various documents like payslips, etc. to be able to trade. You can do that immediately with CoinEx, because CoinEx is not subject to the MiCA regulation and is therefore not EU regulated. The most exciting part of the FUWAR video is definitely the chart, and we're going to take a look at it now. First of all, to get an overview, let's take a look at the weekly chart. You can see that on May 1st, 2023, we received some information from SUI for the first time, and since then the price has been continuously rising and has consistently built a higher low, which is generally a very good thing. It's also nice to see in the last weekly candle, or the last 2 weekly candles, that it has really picked up speed and has already been able to overcome 1 or 2 resistances, which suggests that the bulls are now willing to push the price a bit higher. What is important to me on the chart here is actually the RSI. You can see on it whether the market is overbought or oversold. It is a lagging indicator. This means that values from the past are always taken and graphically represented. And here at 50 points, we have the 0 point, and you can see that on the weekly chart, the price of SUI is theoretically experiencing a strong upward momentum at the moment. And on the other hand, before it becomes overbought here, you can see, for example, during this first rise, we were well overbought. This means that at some point a trend reversal occurs, which we have seen. The RSI is moving downwards, as is the price. And here we had a low RSI again, which moved up nicely, then became overbought again, and then leveled off, and now we are on the way up, but still far from the overbought area. This means that theoretically the price still has potential or poit to move upwards. Of course, not in one movement, as there will always be slight pullbacks, but the potential is there. On the other hand, one must also see that the further we find ourselves in the upper value range, the greater the potential drop if the price does not hold, at least if the bulls do not prevail and the price rushes back down. But at the moment, everything is pointing north, meaning rising prices, and this is also reflected in the MACD because we have a blue and a brown line here. And when the blue line crosses the brown line from bottom to top, it is always a sign of rising prices, regardless of which price you take. We had this intersection here and can also see that we actually had an increase afterwards. Unfortunately, there isn't much more history available because the price hasn't been on the market for very long. But what you can clearly see here at the bottom is that we are currently very close to catching up to the brown line. And if we actually cross it, that would be a bullish signal. On the other hand, and we've had this twice already, if the blue line crosses the brown line from above to below, it indicates falling prices. We had this here, and as we saw, we also went down. And we also had this in April of last year. That was also after our first peak, when the price subsequently dropped. So if the trend continues, and the momentum of the blue line progresses further, it is quite possible that we could see rising prices again with SUI. Let's switch over to the daily chart and take another look at the whole situation. On one hand, we are already in the overbought area here at 78 out of 100 points, and from 70 points, it is said that one is overbought. We have seen this quite often in the past, and it is always a sign, not necessarily, but it can be an indication that the price is slowly heading towards a top, or at least a correction is due. You can see this here, for example, the price moved up well and was able to stay in the overbought area for quite a while, but then it eventually broke down, underwent a short correction, and took a breather before rising again. So what I mean to say is that it can indeed continue to rise in the near future, but one must be prepared for a correction to occur soon, and the rally upwards might only be temporarily interrupted, or it might have already reached its end to some extent. In MACD, it's a bit harder to see at the moment. I'll spread this out a bit here. You can see that the blue and brown lines are still running nicely parallel upwards. This means that a trend reversal is not yet in sight, and it will probably take a little longer before the two lines cross again. Before we move on to the 4-hour chart, let's see what kind of forecast we have for the near future. Currently, there are actually 3 possibilities on the chart for how the price can develop. And there are 2 positive bullish scenarios on the chart, but also a bearish interpretation, which we will discuss in the 4-hour chart, focusing on what to watch out for. Specifically, it could be that this is an harm, there's some C formation. In this case, the C wave would come to a halt somewhere within this yellow box. This can be measured more precisely at a later stage. My subscribers who have booked the course for a thrice weekly analysis will also learn where the more specific price target could be once it can be measured. In any case, the wave C, if it is 1, should find its end at the latest at the 0.6188 Fibonacci level at $8.47. If the price moves beyond this price mark, then it is not the ABC structure, nice, but rather a 1. It is 2, 3, and 4, and a wave 5, which will definitely come to a halt above here, with the option that we could additionally develop another interim wave 4 and wave 5. However, none of this is set in stone yet. That would be an additional giveaway that could come on top. Personally, given how the bull run has gone so far, I would also be satisfied if it becomes a wave C and we break the old all-time high again. I believe, as things stand now, given how the bull run has gone, one could be very, very satisfied. However, there is also a bearish interpretation where the top has already been found up here, and this whole thing is an A, B, C structure in a larger correction that could bring us to much lower prices again, and we will now also look at this on the 4-hour chart. First of all, we will again look at the RSI and the MACD. And there you can see that the RSI is really overbought. It was even over 91 points at one point. This means that almost nothing more is possible. And it is of course clear that a slight or even larger correction is due, which is quite normal in the market. In the MACD, you can see that the blue indicator is slightly bending, not significantly yet, but slightly. Until now, they have run nicely parallel to each other, but since the two lines are so close together, such a crossover can happen relatively quickly. But as I said, it's normal at first, because after the entries, a correction must come. The question now is, and for that, let's take a closer look at the price. I'll enlarge this here. What does the correction look like? To continue the bull run upside and have another chance at a new all-time high, or at least to get close to it, the following is necessary. You absolutely need a 5-part movement upwards to make it clear. But we only have a wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3. We still need a wave 4. That would also be the correction for the RSI, allowing it to cool down a bit. And after that, we need another upward movement into wave 5. Anything else would logically only be a 3-part movement. And if it stays that way, then there is a high risk that the orange scenario will prevail, because we would have developed a wave A here, then a wave B upwards, and that is indeed 3-part. A wave B is always 3-part, and that would be followed by another correction. Start a correction that would lead us once again to really new lows prices, because that would be more or less almost like a correction towards a bear market. It is of course possible that a 3-part movement upwards here is another impulse. But that would mean that with all the entries we still take, there is always uncertainty about whether the bull run will continue or if the price will collapse. That can certainly happen if we only experience the 3 waves now. It gets exciting, and that is one of the advantages my clients have, among other things. This price level here is not yet set in stone, as we do not yet know the exact top point of wave 3. I keep updating this on the charts for my clients, and at some point we know, okay, that was the top, and then we have a reliable price target and can say if the price corrects, and it corrects below a certain price level, which I then publish on my Discord server, then we know, okay, this bullish direct scenario in wave 5 is obsolete. We can only hope for the vague 3-wave upward scenario. Why it is vague, I won't go into that now because it would go beyond the scope. Or one must actually assume that we will now see a really strong sell-off. And even there, if we know that we only have a wave B here, meaning we have fallen below this certain price level, then I will place a price box here below for my subscribers, just as I have already done here, on a smaller and larger scale to say, okay, the price will move down here. This can be used in different ways. You can say, okay, this is quite a strong sell-off for me. I still have profits, I'm getting out. Or I can say, okay, I know roughly when I should top up and buy more. Or you could also set a short position and take good profits on the way down, as I did with PSY during its strong correction over the past weeks and months. If you're interested in such an analysis, then check out the video description below. There's a link to Patreon through which you can access my Discord group. But you can also join through a channel membership directly on YouTube. But it's a bit more expensive because YouTube simply charges more fees. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow alone there will be 9 courses covered, again, in an XXL video, where I delve into the individual scenarios on the daily chart, showing where we stand with each course. You have seen that you can read a lot from the charts, therefore subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in such an analysis for SUI, but also for many other coins like Cardano, DOT, Chainlink, VeChain, Algorand, XRP, SUI, PSY, Fetch, GLQ, CKB, or even Quant, then this might be something for you. You can book everything individually. It doesn't cost much and can be cancelled monthly. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to the next video with you. Until next time, and goodbye.